Hello everyone. Once again, welcome back to the course of Object-Oriented Analysis and Design. This video is brought to you by Newton's Group of Institutions in association with Redefined Solutions. This is Arvind Egretti from the Department of CSE. In this video, we will discuss about advanced behavioral modeling in UML. In this video, we will cover the topics about signal events, call events, time events, and change events, modifying a family of signals, modeling exceptions and handling events in active and passive objects. In the real world, things happen. Not only do things happen, but lot of things may happen at the same time and at the most unexpected times. So things that happen are called events, and each one represents the specification of the significant occurrence that has a location in time and space. So in the context of state machines, we use events to model the occurrence of stimulus that can trigger a state transaction. So events may include signals, calls, the passing of time, or a change of state. Events may be synchronous or asynchronous. So modeling events is wrapped up in the modeling of process and threads. In the UML, each thing that happens is modeled as an event. So event is an specification of a significant occurrence that has a location in time and space. A signal, the passing of time and the change of state are asynchronous events which represent events that can happen at arbitrary times. So here, calls are generally synchronous events and represent the invocation of an operation. UML provides the graphical representation of the events as shown in this figure. So see, this notation permits us to visualize the declaration of events such as signal of hook, as well as the use of events to trigger the state transactions such as the signal of hook, which causes the transaction from active to the idle state, as well as the execution of drop connection action. Now coming to the kinds of events. So in the UML, you can model 4 kinds of events. One is signal events, the other one is call events, and the other one is the passing of time and change in state events, and fourth one is sending and receiving of events. Now coming to the first one, that is signal events. Here a message is named object that is sent asynchronously by one object and then received by another. So a signal is a classifier for messages. It is a message type. And here the signals have a lot of common with plain classes. For example, the signals may be have instances, although you don't generally need to model them explicitly. Signals may also be involved in generalization relationships, permitting you to model the hierarchy of events, and some of which are generally, for example, a signal network failure, and some of which are specific, for example, a specialization of network failure, which is called as warehouse server failure. So also, as for the classes, we may say that the signals may have attributes and operations before it has been sent to one object or after it is received by an other. So a signal is just an ordinary data object. Here a signal may be sent by the action of transactions in the state machine. It may be modeled as a message between two roles in an interaction. So the execution of a method can also send the signals. So in fact, when you model a class or an interface, the important part of specification or specifying the behavior of the element is specifying the signals that its operations can send. So in the UML, as here we can see in the figure, we model a signals as stereotyped classes. We can use a dependency stereotyped as send to indicate that an operation sends a particular signal. Now, coming to the call events. So here, just as a signal event represents the occurrence of a signal, here a call event represents the receipt of the object of a call request for an operation on the object. Here, a call event may be triggered or a state transaction in the state machine, or it may involve a method on the target object. So the choice is specified in the class definition of for the operation. Whereas a signal is an asynchronous event, a call event is usually synchronous. So this means that when an object invokes an operation on another object that has a state machine, the control passes from the sender to the receiver. So the transaction is triggered by the event, and this operation is completed. Then the receiver transition sets to the new state and the control returns to the sender. So in those cases where the caller does not need to wait for a response, a call can be specified as asynchronous. So here this figure shows modeling a call event is indistinguishable from the modeling of a signal event. So in both the cases, we show the event along with its parameters as the trigger for state in transition. Now, coming to timing and change events. So a time event is an event that represents the passing of time. As in this figure, you can see that in the UML, we model a time event by using a keyword after followed by some expressions that evaluates a period of time. That such expressions can be simple, for example, after 2 seconds, or they can be complex, for example, after 1 milliseconds since existing idle. So unless you specify it explicitly, the starting time of such an expression is the time since entering the current state. So to indicate the time event that occurs at an absolute time, we use the keyword at. For example, the time event at 1st Jan 2005, 1200, which we specified here, UT specifies that the event occurs on non-universal time on New Year Day of 2005. So here, a change event is an event that represents the change in the state or the signification of some condition. Again, in this figure, it shows that the UML we model a change event may be using the keyword when followed by some Boolean expressions. So you can use such an expressions for the continuous test of an expression. For example, when altitude is less than 1000. So here, a change event occurs once when the value of the condition changes from false to true. So it does not occur when the value of the condition changes from true to false. So the event does not recur while the event remains true. So this is what we can see in time and change events. Now coming to the fourth one, that is sending and receiving events. So here signal events and call events involve at least two objects. The object that sends the signal or invokes the operation and the object to which the event is directed. Because these signals are asynchronous and because asynchronous calls are themselves signals, the semantics of events interact with the semantics of the active objects and passive objects. So any instance of any class can send a signal to or invoke an operation of the receiving object. So when an object sends a signal to the sender dispatches the signal and then continues along its flow of control, non-waiting for any return from the receiver. So for example, if an actor interacts with an ATM system, sends the signal push button, then the actor may continue along its way independent of the system to which the signal was sent. So in contrast, when the object calls an operation, then the sender dispatches the operation and then waits for the receiver to reply. For example, in trading system, an instance of the class trader might invoke the operation confirm transition on some instance of the class trade, so thereby affecting the state of the trade object. Whereas in the synchronous call, the trader object will wait until the operation is finished. So any instance of any class can receive a call event or a signal. If this is a synchronous call event, then the sender and the receiver are in the meeting at the agreed time and place during the duration of the operation. This means that the flow of control of the sender suspends until the execution of the operation completes. So if this is a signal, then the sender and the receiver do not meet at the agreed time or place. Then the sender dispatches the signal but does not wait for any response from the receiver. So in either of these cases, this event may be lost if no response to the event is specified, or it may be triggered that the receiver state machine if either is 1, or it may just invoke a normal method call. So in the UML, we model the call events that an object may receive as operations as the class of the objects. So in the UML, we model the named signals that an object may receive by naming them in an extra compartment of the class, like what we have seen in this particular figure. Now coming to common modeling techniques. So here modeling a family of signals. So in most event-driven signals, signal events are hierarchical for between external signals such as collision and the internal ones such as hardware fault. So here external and internal signals need not be disjoint. However, even within these two broad classifications, we may find the specializations. For example, the hardware fault signals might be further specialized as a battery fault or momentum fault, when these might be further specialized such as motor stall, a kind of movement fault. So by modeling the hierarchy of signals in the manner, we can specify polymorphic events. For example, consider a state machine with a transition triggered only by the receipt of the motor stall. As a leaf signal in this hierarchy, the transaction can be triggered only by the signal. So it is not polymorphic. In contrast, suppose if we model the state machine with a transaction triggered by the receipt of a hardware fault, in this case, the transaction is polymorphic and can be triggered by an hardware fault or any of its specializations, including battery fault, movement fault, and motor stall. So to model a family of signals, we will consider all the different kinds of signals to which a given set of active objects may be responding. So here if we look for the common kind of signals and to place them in a generalization or specialization hierarchy using inheritance, then we need to evaluate more general ones and lower more specialized ones. So we need to look for the opportunity for polymorphism in the state machines of these active objects, where we find polymorphism and then adjust the hierarchy as necessary by introducing the intermediate abstract signals. So this figure shows a model of a family of signals that may be handled by an autonomous robot. Note that the root signal, robot signal, is abstract, which means that there may be no direct instances. So this signal has two intermediate concrete specializations. One is collision and the other one is hardware fault. So one of which hardware fault is further specialized. So here note that the collision signals has only one parameter. Now coming to modeling abnormal occurrences. So to model the abnormal occurrences, an important part of visualizing, specifying and documenting the behavior of the class or an interface is specifying the abnormal occurrences that its operations can produce. If you are handed a class or an interface, the operations you can invoke will be clear, but these abnormal occurrences that each operation may rise will not be clear unless we model them explicitly. So here in the UML, abnormal occurrences are just additional kind of events that can be modeled as signals. So error events may be attached to the specification operations, and modeling exceptions is somewhat the inverse of modeling a general family of signals. And we may model a family of signals primarily to specify the kind of signals an active object may receive, or C, we model abnormal occurrences primarily to specify the kind of abnormal occurrences that an object may produce. So, to model abnormal occurrences for each class and interface and for each operation of such elements, we need to consider the normal things that happen. Then we need to think of those things that can go wrong and model them as signals among the objects. So arrange the signals in a hierarchy, evaluate general ones, lower specialized ones, and introduce intermediate expectations as necessary. So for each operation, we specify the abnormal occurrence signals that it may arise. And we can do so explicitly by showing send dependencies from an operation to its signals, or either we can use a sequence diagram which illustrates various scenarios. So here this figure models a hierarchy of abnormal occurrences that may be produced by a standard library of constrainer classes such as template class set. So this hierarchy is headed by an abstract signal errors, and which includes three specialized kinds of errors. One is duplicate, overflow and underflow. So as shown here, the add operation may produce a duplicate and overflow signals, and the remove operation produces only the underflow signals. So here, alternatively, we could have put these dependencies in the background by naming them in each operation's specification. So either way, by knowing which signal each operation may send, we can create the client that uses the set of classes correctly. So for each operation specific, we need to specify the expectations that it may arise, so that we can do so explicitly by showing send dependencies from an operation to its expectations, or we can put this in an operations specifications. Okay. Thank you. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for the latest notifications.